All right, this is the second week review for our defense class. And as we've already talked about with defense, it's very important that you learn defense because, I mean, you've been playing it all along, but having put some rules into effect, it's going to really improve your game at being able to read your partner's hand. And this is what the key to defense is. Uh, when the declarer plays, the declarer can see all the hands and that they need to be responsible for playing. In defense, you see half of the hands, but you see yours in dummies. You can't see your partner's hand. So, a lot of what we do on defense is trying to put a picture in our head of what our partner may have, what their hand looks like, and so how we can best utilize our cards to make it really difficult for the declarer to make their bid. The first thing we talked about last week in the opening week was opening leads. So let's just take a quick review of opening leads. Well, sorry guys, I'm still having a little problem here. Give me 1 second. Okay, here's what we need to look at. Is everyone seeing opening leads on your screen now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. All right. Okay, so when we talked about opening leads, we talked about the fact there's a difference between opening leads against no trump. There, you're trying to find a long suit leading from length, and opening leads against a suit contract. There, you're leading the strength. What your high cards are more likely to take tricks in that case. So, the first idea is if your partner has bid a suit, lead that suit. Lead that suit. So always for both no trump and suit contracts, if partner has bid, we're pretty much required to lead that suit unless you've got a lot better idea that you better be able to explain to your partner during the assessment of blame phase at the end of the hand. You need to be able, you'd need to have led your partner's suit. What you're going to lead is you're going to lead the top card from a doubleton in their suit, or you're going to lead the top of touching honors in their suit. And if you don't have either touching honors or a doubleton, then you are going to use Boston, bottom of something, top of nothing to lead. Okay, so if you have a face card in their suit, that is something. So when you have something, you lead the bottom, bottom of something, BOS. When you have nothing, no face card, you lead the top. That's the TON, top of nothing part. So if you have a face card in their suit, lead low. If you have no face cards in their suit, lead high. So that's going to be a 10, 9, or 8 if there are no face cards. That's for leading your partner's suit. If your partner has not bid, then you're going to lead your longest suit. Again, we're talking about no trump. And when we're talking about no trump, you're going to lead the top of touching honors from a 3-card sequence or a broken sequence or an interior sequence. But remember, all that means is if you are going to lead a suit, your longest suit in no trump, if you lead an honor, it means you have 3 honors in the suit, and the card that you led, you've got the card below it. So with the ace, queen, jack, you'll lead the queen. With the king, queen, jack, you lead the queen, a king that promises the one below it and 3. You happen to have the jack below it, and it has to be either the jack or 10, because if you lead the king, you could not have had the ace, because if you had the ace king touching, you would have led the ace. So there are a lot of things you can figure out from this, and don't worry about this broken sequence, interior sequence thing. Just think about it's no trump. If I'm leading an honor, I'm promising 3 honors, And whatever honor I'm leading, I've got the one below it. Now, if you have no sequence, lead the fourth highest. Lead the fourth highest. By the way, that would be, for instance, that you have the ace, queen, 10. Notice there's no sequence there. You're missing the king and the jack. The ace, queen, 10, you cannot lead, even though you have 3 honors, you can't lead top of that. You have to lead the fourth down in that suit. If you have touching honors and 3 honors, then you lead one of the touching honors, the top of whatever touching honors you have. Now, with no sequence, you're going to lead the fourth down. And the reason we lead the fourth down, and you should just always play, if you're playing from a long hand, lead the fourth down. Partner will start to realize that and look at that. The reason you do it in no trump particularly is because the rule of 11. The rule of 11 says that if partner is leading their fourth down, we can subtract that card from 11, the number on that card from 11. And whatever the difference is, that's the number of high cards that are out in the other 3 hands. The other 3 hands. So if your partner has led a 6, you subtract 6 from 11, that's 5. There are 5 higher cards out. Well, you can see the number of cards you have in your hand that are higher than the 6. You can see the number of cards in dummy that are higher than the 6. That means the rest of them are in declarer's hands. If you have 2 in your hand and there's 2 higher in dummy, that's 4. That means that there are 2 more higher in the declarer's hand. That rule of 11 sometimes, frequently doesn't really help. It can't help you that much to know, but very often it's very critical for you to know that the declarer only has 1 or maybe 2 higher cards in their suit. And many times, based on what you have and what the dummy has, you can figure out what those 2 higher cards are. It's very valuable information when you're defending against a no trump contract. Now, when partner hasn't bid and you have to lead your longest suit in no trump, you are going to lead the stronger suit that you have, if you have 2 equal length suits, or if you've got 2 equal length suits and you're not sure which to lead an unbid suit. Lead a suit that the opponents did not bid. And even further than that, if you have a choice of what to lead, and you can't really decide what to lead otherwise, if they've gotten to 3 no trump without trying to bid or find a major suit, lead a major suit. Because remember, you're always trying to find a major suit instead of playing in no trump. And if the bidding just goes 1 no trump, 3 no trump, they probably don't have strong hearts or spades. So then sometimes that would be the one you would choose to lead, if it makes sense. You know, if you have 4 or 5 cards in that suit. Okay, the opening lead against suit contracts. Here you're leading from strength. You want to find the high cards that you and your partner have between you, and you need to find them quickly because the opponents are going to be able to trump in at a suit contract. So again, if partner has led, lead their suit. If they bid, lead their suit and lead the same thing that you would have led under no trump, the top of a doubleton, touching sequence, or the fourth down, or the bottom of something, top of nothing idea for partner suit. If you got a face card, lead low. If you don't have a face card, lead high. If you have a sequence, and this just has to be a 2-card sequence, you would lead the top of the sequence. In a suit contract, we can't worry about having 3 cards in 3 honors in the suit because we rarely get to be able to play 3. So in a suit contract, you only need to have 2 cards to have a sequence. And if we have a sequence, we lead the top of the sequence. Remember, we talked about the fact in defense, you cannot see your partner's hand. So start giving your partner information about some of the cards in your hand anyway. And if you have a sequence, You lead the higher card. That promises that you've got the card below it. So now partner knows where at least one card out of the 26 that he can see where that is. So you will lead the top of a sequence. If they have not bid a suit, then it's very good to lead the unbid suit sometime. If they haven't bid it and you don't have it, your partner may have it. So lead an unbid suit. And again, you lead using bottom of something, top of nothing. If you're going to lead an unbid suit and you've got something in that suit, you will lead low. If you don't have a honor in the suit, you'll lead a high card, 10, 9, 8. You only lead a short suit, and that's like a singleton or a doubleton, when partner is likely to be able to win and return the lead. If partner does not have many points in his hand, and you would know that because the opponents have bid maybe to a game, so they've got 26 points, and you've got 12 or 13 points in your hand, that's nearly all the points in the deck. Your partner is not going to be winning anything and returning it to you. So leading a short suit is not likely to develop anything for you, giving you a chance to trump early, because you're just going to lose it and then they're going to draw trump and that's the end of it. But if you think your partner may be able to win, and this is particularly true at lower level contracts, they may be able to win and return it, then it's a good thing to lead. Even if you think your partner may have 6 or 8 points, they might have an ace that would allow them to win and return it to you. Now, lead a trump. We usually don't lead trumps, but we may lead trump if the declarer is likely to want to rough some tricks. In other words, if you and your partner have been bidding along and gotten to a 4-spade contract, and your opponents bid 5 clubs, and they've bid clubs back and forth, but they really didn't seem to have the points. They were just distributional. So they're making a sacrifice bid of 5 clubs. They're not expecting to win, but they're expecting to go down few enough that it's better than letting you make 4 spades. That's a sacrifice. Well, they're going to need to have some trump tricks. That's the only way it would work for them, is if they're able to trump some short suits. Well, in that case, you probably want to lead trump. If you don't have anything else to lead trump. That helps take away the number of trump tricks that they may be able, or roughing tricks, short suit tricks that they may be able to get. Now, you can lead a long suit if you think you and your partner have more than 4 trump between you. Otherwise, leading a long suit does not usually help with anything against a suit contract. You're not likely to be able to develop that suit. But if you think you and your partner have 4 or more trump between you, because either they've kind of stopped at a low level because they couldn't agree on a suit, they wound up playing a suit that they really didn't agree on, or they've stopped at a low level because they don't have points, you may have enough trump, then you can lead a long suit. Otherwise, you lead a trump only if you have nothing else to lead. Now, when we talk about which card to lead, we talk about don't underlead an ace, and we don't like to underlead a king. So if you have only suits headed by the ace or the king, then lead a trump, because that keeps your high cards safer than if you underlead the ace or you underlead a king. You may be developing your partner's hand, but there's 3 other hands out. Your partner's only one of them. So you could be developing cards for one of the other 2. So only if you really have nothing else to lead, because everything else is dangerous, then you can lead a trump. So unless you're in one of those positions, if you don't have a preferred suit to lead, partner hasn't bid anything, you don't have a sequence, you don't want to lead trump, then you lead the top of nothing. That's bottom of something, top of nothing. So when you don't have any preferences for your partner, lead one of those middle cards, 10, 9, 8. Just lead the top of that suit. That tells partner, hey, I don't have anything in this suit. Don't send it back to me. Send it back to me if you want, but you're seeing the highest card I've got in that suit. So that's what we lead when we don't have anything else to lead, top of nothing. And the really the only time we wouldn't lead that is if we have high cards in every suit, like a singleton ace or an unprotected ace, an unprotected king. That's when we lead trump. But if we have two suits where it's dangerous because we have an ace only or a king only in the suit, then we would go ahead and lead the top of the nothing suit. Now, which card to lead once you've chosen the suit? Top card from a doubleton, the top of touching honors, the fourth down if you're leading a real suit, and leading an ace. Do not underlead an ace. But if you have a suit where you want to lead that suit, then you're going to lead the ace if you have it. If you have the ace 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, lead the ace. Don't lead a small one. The reason for that is that if you don't lead the ace in a suit contract, if you lead the ace, you'll get that trick, but you're developing other tricks for them. If you underlead the ace, yes, you're probably going to get that eventually, but the eventually may be too late because they'll be trumping in. So do not underlead an ace. That's a pretty hard and fast rule. And sort of next to that is very rarely underlead a king by itself, just a bare king sitting there. Save those. They should be used to take other cards. You shouldn't just play them out. Okay, so those are the rules for opening leads. Opening leads. What we talked about in our last class was actually the play. This is after the opening lead has occurred, and you're either playing to the opening lead or you're down further in the playing to trick number 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Then you need to decide what card do you want to play. And what card do you want to play on a trick makes a difference if you're in the third hand position or the second hand position. The third hand position is the third person to play to a trick. If you are the third person to play to a trick, that means your partner led to that particular trick. Your partner leads, the next person plays, you are number 3, third hand. Second hand is the next person to play after the lead. Notice that in third hand, if you're going to win that trick, it's got to be out of your hand if partner has played low. So it's up to you to win the trick if you can. If you are the second person to play, somebody's led, this person's led, now it's my turn to play. That means my partner has not played yet. So that means we should let our partner win the trick as cheaply as possible by playing last. So in general, the second hand plays low, unless we want to take a trick to win set them, then we may play high, no matter what partner has. But I know all of you've run into the situation where you have played your high card as second hand, and then you play the ace and your partner's king drops underneath it. So you need to play low and let your partner have the chance to win the final one. So second hand plays low, third hand plays high. Those are the general rules. You've probably already been following these rules because when you're playing, you have to have some way to decide what to play. And those rules, third hand high, second hand low, works most of the time. Most of the time, it's a good rule. But in this class, these two classes, we're really going to kind of refine that because third hand doesn't always play totally high, and second hand doesn't always play totally low. So let's talk about when we do one versus the other. So the first thing we're going to talk about is third hand play. We already said third hand plays high, but only as high as necessary to win the trick. So if you'll look in your course books over on page 71, well, first it gives you an example on page 70. If all you have is a high card and you're playing the third hand, partner has led, it's your turn, third hand. If you just have an ace or you just have a king, you play it. You play the high card that you have, high as you can. That's playing the high card. But sometimes you might have a little bit different situation. Look at the top of page 71. Here, partner has led a 2 from the king, the queen, jack, 8, 2. You can see the dummy has the 7, 6, 5. You're going to play the king. Now, your king may lose to the ace, right? You may not have the highest trick. But look at the situation that's on the top of page 71. Your partner led the 2 from the queen, jack, 8, 2. You've got the king, so now once the ace is played, your partner has the other 2 tricks. Also, what can we figure out about what the contract must be if partner played the 2 of spades? It must be a no trump contract, right? Because if it were a suit contract, we could lead the queen. Your partner could have led the queen because he can lead the top of touching honors. But in a no trump contract, you do not lead the top of touching honors unless you've got 3. So we know this is a suit contract, not a no trump contract. For what it's worth, if you were sitting at the table, you would know because you've listened to the bidding, right? So then you would know. Okay, so in this situation, you play the king. Also note at the top of page 71, if you do not play the king, let's say you're thinking to yourself, well, gosh, partner had led low, so probably he's got something in the suit. And if I play the king, I might lose to the ace. So why don't I just hang on to my king and play a little card? Well, the declarer is not forced to play the ace. The declarer gets to play fourth hand in this situation. And so they are going to win the trick with the highest card they need to play to win. If you play low, not your king, they're going to win with the 10 or the 9 and still get the ace. So you third hand high, you must play high. If you don't have anything else to go on, you play as high as you can. That's both to hope your trick wins, and if it doesn't win, to hope you're knocking out something in the opponent's hand. You have to play high to do that. Otherwise, they could take the trick too cheaply. But as you'll see down in the middle, towards the bottom of page 71, sometimes you have 2 cards, the king and the jack. And you might think, well, I wonder if I should play the jack. Well, the answer is no. If you can't see anything else on the board that gives you any information, you still need to play third hand high. Don't worry about the fact you have the jack. Play the king, third hand high. They give you several examples here of having non-touching honors. When you have non-touching honors, even if you have 2 honors, the third hand high rule applies. Play high. Because you're hoping to win the trick. Now, there are some exceptions to this. Third hand, not so high. When do we play not the highest card? Well, when you play not the highest card is in 2 situations. Either you've got touching honors, in which case you'll play the lower. Play the lower, hoping partner figures out a missing one is in your hand. And then the other situation is when you're finessing against dummy. That is, you can see a high card in dummy's hand. And so because you can see that card, you might play the lower card, trapping their higher card. So let's look at some examples of this. Let's look at some examples of touching cards. You play the lower. This starts over on page 74. When we have touching cards, the queen, jack, we're still going to play high, but we are not going to play the highest card when we have touching. Remember when they aren't touching, like when we had the king, jack, and the queen, 10, we played the king, play the highest card. But if you've got touching cards, play the lower of the touching cards. This will help your partner. If you have, and let's look at the middle example there of page 74, your partner has led the 4, dummy played low, and you have the queen, jack. You are going to play the jack. Touching honors. Look at the more complete and look at the total suit, and you'll see your partner led the 4 underneath the king. He led the 4, dummy played low. You put in the jack and declarer won with the ace. Now, if declarer had the queen, they would have won with the queen, right? Your partner can see that. Your partner has the king, 10. You've played the jack. He knows that the queen is missing somewhere. Well, declarer chose to go up with their ace instead of winning with their queen. They could have won with their queen, then played the ace. Instead, they played the ace, showing they don't have the queen. Your partner should be able to place the queen in your hand. Now, it doesn't always work like that. It's not always that your partner can tell you have the queen. For instance, if the declarer had the ace and the queen, or the king and the queen, in this case they don't, you have the king, but if they didn't, they might play the lower one just to throw it off. But many times, based on the way the cards are distributed, if you play the lower of touching honors, high, touching honors, your partner's going to figure out that you have the higher one of that. So touching cards, you play the lower. Then when we can see what is in dummy, finessing against dummy, we may not play the highest card, and that is because we want to trap their high cards in the dummy so that they don't just get to cash their high cards. This is a situation where you can have the king and the jack. You do play the jack instead of the king. Remember earlier we said, well, if you got the king and the jack and you can't see anything in dummy, you play the higher one, the king. Look over on page 77. 77, it talks about this issue. Page 77, the partner has led a 3. Dummy has the queen small, and you have the king, jack, 8, 4. Well, when you can see the queen in dummy, you don't play high. You play the jack. You play the highest you need to play to win the trick. If the queen is in dummy, there's no point in playing your king because the jack basically is an equal card to the king now since you can play the queen. So you play the lower one. You play the jack. Okay. Now, is partner going to know for sure that's what's happening? No. But the fact that they can see also a high card in dummy should alert them to the fact that if you're playing a honor card, it may not be the highest one you have. It's just the highest one that keeps that queen trapped. Look over on page 78. In the middle of the page, you'll see that you'll do this even if you have the king 10, not the king jack. You'll still play the 10. In this case, the one in the middle of page 78, they can see the queen. So you want to keep that queen trapped. So you put in the 10. You want to keep your king available to play on top of the queen so they can't just cash the queen. If you play the king, it makes their queen good. You can see that you're giving up a trick. When you can't see that, you have to play the highest card you have. But when you can see that, when you can see that you've got a higher card than their card, and they want you to play that higher card, well, don't play the higher card. Play a higher card that you have, but keep the king in your hand. So in general, play the very highest card. The times you don't play the high card is if you have a touching honors, then you play the higher. Or if you can see an honor in the dummy, then you keep the one that's higher than that and play a lower high card. So that's not quite as high as you could play it. Let's now consider this third hand high is considering that your partner led a low card. They led a low card. Sometimes, though, partner in the first position leads a high card. Then what do? Well, look over on page 82. Page 82. When your partner leads a high card, you need to think about, why did they lead that high card? What was the point of that? Because I'm third hand, ordinarily, the first person leads low. If they led a high card, it means usually they have the card underneath that, right? So at the top of page 82, that first example that we see, partner led a queen, we should assume immediately he has the jack. Slight possibility it's a doubleton and he has the queen small, but most of the time it's the queen jack. So it comes around and we can see that the king is in dummy. Partner has led the queen. The king is in dummy. This is a finesse against the king, right? We talked about finessing, and when we talk about play of the hand, well, he is finessing against the king. He hopes the king is in the hand that it's in. It's in the dummy hand. So the queen is going to win. So in that case, you don't play third hand high. You don't take his queen with your ace and leave the king out there. That makes sense, right? So you don't do that. You are going to play low. Your partner's queen is going to win in that case. So that is a time when you do not play third hand high. Many times when your partner has led a high card, you do not play third hand high. However, sometimes you can't see the opponent's card. In that case, it was pretty easy. Partner led the queen. You can see the king. You've got the ace. You know when you need to play the ace to cover the king. But when you can't see the card that's missing, top of page 83, partner has led a high card, but you can't see the missing high cards. When you can't see the missing high cards, then you do need to play high. The example at the top of page 83, partner led the jack from the ace, jack, 10, 9. So first of all, what do we know this contract must be? Suit or no trump? Must be a no trump contract, right? Because in a suit contract, he wouldn't underlead an ace. And in a no trump contract, if he leads an honor, he's promising the honor, the card below the one he led, and another one. So he's led the jack. He definitely has the 10, and he could have the ace or the king. He couldn't have the queen because he would have led that. So anyway, he leads the jack. Dummy plays low. Then you do have to play high. Even though partner led a high card, you're going to want to play high with the king because you don't know where the other cards are. But you know your partner should have 2 honors since this is a no trump contract. So you go ahead and play your king. And if that wins, and it does in this case, then you lead a low card back. And now you are finessing the declarer because the queen is sitting in declarer's hand. You've won with the king. You couldn't see the queen. But when you lead a low card back, now declarer has to either play the queen or not play the queen. It doesn't make any difference. Whichever he does, your partner's going to win. If he plays the queen, your partner plays the ace. If he doesn't play the queen, your partner plays the 10, since he already played the jack. That queen is now trapped. So just remember, if you can see the card in dummy, you may not play high. You may play low. But if you can't see the card in dummy, then you have to play high. Okay, there's one more important concept that goes along with this, which is unblocking. Now, this is hard for y'all. It's hard for me. It's hard for everybody. Unblocking. Let's look over on page 87. Page 87. This example on the top of page 87, your partner has led the king of spades. It's a no trump contract. We know your partner has at least the queen and either the jack or the 10 or both. We know they do not have the ace because you have the ace is one reason, but also because if they had the ace, they would have led the ace, not the king. So your partner has led the king, dummy plays, and then you have two cards, two, the ace and a small one. What do you do? In this case, you need to unblock. If you play the small card and save your ace, because you know your partner's king is going to win, right? You let your partner's king win, then you win the ace later, right? If you do it that way, you can't lead to get back to his hand. And if you're playing a no trump contract, developing your suit before the opponents take their winners is a critical ingredient of making an effective defensive play. So you need to develop your suits at defense as quickly as you can in a no trump situation before the opponents get to develop their good suits. So in this situation where you have two cards, and if you don't win the ace, you're not going to be able to lead back. In this case, you play the ace to unblock the suit. You play the ace over the king and then lead a small one back because you know at a minimum your partner has the queen and they also have another face card, either the jack or the 10, because that's our rules about opening leads on a no trump contract. And so look at the situation here that's actually out on the page 87. Partner led the king, dummy plays low. You play the ace on top of their king and lead the 3 back to them. Now they're going to win all their tricks because they'll lead the 3 back. And whether or not they play the 10 or the 8, your partner's going to win with the queen, then the jack, then the 7, and the 5 are going to be good. If you play it the other way, where you play low, and then your partner has to lead another one, and they're probably going to lead the queen, so they're going to waste their queen because they're thinking the player is holding up with the ace. They want to knock the ace out. They don't realize you're holding it. That's, if they lead the queen, then you're going to have to take the ace. You can't lead anything back, and they've wasted their queen. So even if they figure you have the ace and lead a small one back to you, and you win with the ace, you can't lead the suit back to them. This is like a critical error that you make, especially in a no trump contract. It's not so big of a deal, although can be a big deal. Not so critical in a suit contract, but in a no trump contract, you have to unblock. If your partner is leading from strength in a suit, if they've led a face card, they have something in that suit. They have 3 honors in that suit. You need to get rid of your high cards so you don't get stuck over there. This is always going to be true if you have just 2 in the suit. You're going to have to unblock so you can go back to the good cards in your partner suit and allow them to develop that suit. You can't delay by taking your high card and then by not taking your high card, waiting to take your high card and hoping partner can get back into his hand some way. That's just usually not going to work out for you in a no trump suit. Okay, then, so that's third hand high. Mostly we play third hand high, but only as high as necessary. If we can see something on the board, we just have to play high enough to go under what's on the board. Like if we have the king jack and can see the queen on the board, we can play the jack. But ordinarily, we're going to play high. The two times we're definitely not is if we have touching honors, we're going to play the lower of the touching honor. Or if we can see a high card in dummy and we want to beat that high card and we have another lower card, we will play the lower card. If they have the queen and we have the king, we keep our king to keep from making their queen good. So that's what we're doing. If we are finessing against a high card that's in dummy, we play a lower card so they don't get to just cash that queen later. We hold on to our higher card if we have another high card. If we have only low cards, then yes, we have to go ahead and play third hand high with the highest one we have. And then unblocking, particularly when you have two of the suit, although it can even be you have the ace, king, small. If your partner leads the queen, you have to take it with the ace, then play the king, then play a small one back. You have to get rid of the high cards in your hand if partner is leading from a long suit. Okay, then let's talk about second hand play. When you are the second person to play, generally you play low. And here we kind of use the phrase, aces are meant to take kings. So you are the second person to play. Your partner is going to be the last person to play. So usually going to play low, waiting to let partner win the trick if they can. The times you won't do it is when they have led a king, then you'll play the ace. But a reason that we do play low is because if we can see an ace on the board, aces are meant to take kings. Or if our partner has the ace and we can see the king, we hope our partner has the ace to take the king. Aces, if you just cash an ace, that's it, right? It's one trick. But if you can use an ace to take a king, you've won the ace, which you were going to win anyway, and you've taken away their king. So it's better. So aces are meant to take kings. So second hand play, you play low. This conserves your high cards. Okay, so you aren't wasting your high cards. You hold on to your high cards playing second hand and let your partner play whatever high cards they have. That gives them the most chance of winning. Also, it makes the declarer guess if you play second hand low. Gives them a chance to make a mistake. And let's look over, here's some examples of this. On page 105. 105. In this case, on page 105, the declarer has led the four of hearts, and you are the second hand. Our rule says play low. Our rule says play low. In this case, though, you have the king and the jack, and they have the ace, queen, 10. So your king, jack are kind of trapped between the ace and the 10, right? Excuse me, the ace and the queen and the 10. If you play either one of yours, they're going to take it and make the lower one good. But you might think, well, I can at least knock one of theirs out. But the thing is, you need to make them guess where the king and the jack are. When they lead the four of spades, why are they leading the four of spades with the ace, queen, 10 on the board? They should be leading it, hoping to finesse the king and the jack, right? So they lead the four, you play low, you give them no information about what is in your hand and what your partner has. So they may think if you play low, they're going, well, that didn't help me. Now, did they have the king jack? Does the person's partner have king jack? And maybe they'll make a mistake. Maybe they'll decide to play the queen. The correct play, as we learned, third hand high, the correct play is they should play the 10. If you could see the king and jack, they would play the 10. But in this situation, they lost their nerve and they played the queen thinking, well, I've got a 50-50 chance of having the king over there. So they play their queen. Well, now your king or your jack, one of the two, has just been promoted and will win. So you make them guess. Maybe they'll do the wrong thing. Maybe they'll guess wrong. It can be even more important when they don't have any idea about what's out. Look at the example in the middle of page 105. They've led the three of diamonds. You have the ace, 10, 8, 6, 2, and the king jack is in dummy. Well, if you play high in this case, you should play low. If you violate the rule and play high and take that ace, because you can see it's going to win, that makes their king good. So you want to play low, second hand low. That's our rule. It's usually a good rule to follow. You do that. Now they've got the king and the jack. Which one are they going to play? You know, they're going to think, well, did you have the ace and the queen, or just the ace, or just the queen? Make them guess. So that's another reason second hand always plays low. Let me mention one other thing here. Probably should have mentioned it earlier. But on third hand high and second hand low, if you hesitate when you're playing, you're giving information to the opponents. Okay. So if the opponents lead and you stop and think about what you need to play as second hand, you're giving away some information. You're telling the opponents that you have something in your hand to think about. You're also telling your partner you have something in your hand to think about, but your partner is not supposed to use that information because that's unauthorized information. Okay, so everybody should always play in tempo as much as you can. Sometimes you really do have something to think about. You have to stop and think, but you should be prepared to play. If you stop to think about, if they've led the queen and you stop to think about whether you should or should not put the king on top of it, that's telling them you have the king. You're telling them that you have that. So if you hesitate to play, then even if they had their ace and they weren't going to finesse, they were just going to play their ace. Now they know they don't have to. So it's important as you're playing defense not to give away information to your hand about your hand to the declarer. So you have to play in tempo. That means, doesn't mean quick, but it means, you know, they play, you pull a card out of your hand and play. It's not they play, you look at your hand and think about it. That's not playing in tempo. Playing tempo the much as you can for second hand low and third hand high. By the time you get to fourth hand, you can think all you want. Doesn't make any difference. Of course, fourth hand is usually the easiest decision at the table. The leader has to decide what to lead. Second hand has to decide how low to play or how high to play. Third hand has to decide how high or how low to play. Fourth hand just tries to win the trick. That's the easiest one. That's why we don't have special rules for fourth hand play. So try to play in tempo. This means you need to have thought ahead enough about it to just kind of think, okay, second hand here, is there a reason not to do second hand? No, just play regular. Mostly play second hand low, third hand high. You can also be creating entry problems for declare. So look at page 107. 107. Declarer has led small, and you have the ace, 10, 3. You can see the king, queen on the board. You are going to want to play low. Second hand low is our rule, and of course we do it here. And this creates entry problems for dummy. You've now got the ace 10. They're going to have to go back to that hand to play, and they're going to have to go through your hand. So you're creating entry problems by playing second hand low also. Now, when do you not play second hand low? Second hand not so low. Let's go over on page 109. When you don't play so low, There's a couple of situations. Number one, if you have touching honors, look at the example on page 109. The dummy has led a 3, and you have the queen, king, queen, jack. We've learned from third hand that usually we play the lowest card we can, and we will do that in this situation. We'll play the jack. And part of the reason we're doing this is to make our other cards good. In this situation, when dummy led low, you have the king, queen, jack. If you play your jack and it knocks out the ace, then your king, queen, and are both good. If you play low, as ordinarily you would in second hand, you would play low. If you do that in this situation, they can win with the ace and also the 10 or the 9. So when you have touching honors and you can't see anything else to stop you from doing it, like in dummy, you can see dummy. Dummy doesn't have anything to win. So any winners are going to come from the declarer or your partner. In that situation, you go ahead and play a high card if you have touching honors. Okay. The last thing then, because that's splitting honors, that just means if you have touching honors, you split them. You go ahead and play one of them. If you do not have touching honors, you play low. So the only time you don't play low in second hand or is if you have touching honors and you think you may be developing those, you will play the touching honors. If you can see in the dummy that you have just the king jack and they have the ace king, there's no point in you splitting those. Next time you would not play low is if you've got the setting trick. Now usually we don't play high to win the trick even when we know we can win the trick, because we want to let our partner win the trick. We want to conserve our high cards, hoping that they have some higher cards than the third hand does. This is second hand we're talking about. Okay, so, but when we can see we have the setting trick, if you and your partner have already taken 3 tricks against a 4 spade contract, and they now lead a diamond, and you are playing second hand and you have the ace of diamonds, take it. That is the setting trick, because things can go astray, right? A lot of things can happen. So if once you can see that you've got the setting trick, take the setting trick. The last thing that is talked about in these chapters of third hand low, third hand high, second hand low, is the idea of covering an honor with an honor, which is another one of the normal play of the defense rules, or even just play of the hand rules, because actually these rules kind of apply to declarer too. They just can see what's in their dummy, so they have control of 2 hands. So second hand low, third hand high, and cover an honor with an honor are the rules that you learn like your first day of playing a hand. So those are the 3. So usually you cover an honor with an honor. That means if they lead the queen and you have the king, you put the king on top of the queen. Then if they want to win it, they're going to have to win it with the ace. It takes 2 of their honors to win 1 of your honors, and it promotes whatever else is out there. So you nearly always want to do that. And look at the page 115 is where it talks about covering an honor with an honor. In this situation, the middle of page 115, the dummy has led the queen and you have the king, jack, 10. Our rules tell us, well, we should play second hand low, play the 10, but no, not in this situation. We have the king, we can win the queen and promote our jack and 10 at the same time. Okay, because playing the king over the queen takes the queen. It makes them have to play the ace to win the trick, and then your jack and your 10 are good. Now, that's easy to see, right? But look at the next one down. Okay, here you have the queen and dummy. You can see the queen and dummy, and you just have the king. You can't see anything else. So you can't see that covering an honor with an honor is going to promote anything or help you. But still, with nothing else to go on, you go ahead and cover the queen. So second hand low, you cover an honor with an honor, or actually third hand also, you'll cover an honor with an honor usually. This doesn't apply in fourth hand because you can decide what to play to win the trick, and it doesn't apply first hand because you're leading. But for second hand and third hand both, the general rule is cover an honor with an honor. The only time you won't do that is when there is nothing possible to promote in either your hand or your partner's hand, and that's where you can see good cards in dummy. Look over on the top of page 118. On the top of page 118, declarer has led the 10. So should you cover it or should you not cover it? You can see that the ace and the jack are out. So in that case, you would want to play the queen. Look at the top of page 119, though. This starts telling you when there is nothing to promote. Page 119. Look at the example here. The dummy has led the queen, and we can see the queen, jack, 10, 9. There is nothing to promote in our hand, like originally in that first example we looked at, they led the queen and we had the king, jack, 10. Well, for sure we covered the queen then. But here there is nothing in our hand to promote, and the only other card out that's higher is the ace. So if you play the king on top of the queen in this situation, then the declarer will play the ace and have the next three tricks. It's possible that your partner has the ace. You still don't want to play the king because you don't know that partner has the ace. You just know that you've got nothing that can be promoted. And if partner has the ace, it doesn't need to be promoted. It's always going to win. So you are going to play low when you can't see anything. You can't see any value, any possible promotions, because you can see all the other cards in dummy. So that is usually why when we don't cover an honor with an honor. Sometimes we wait to cover the honor with the honor. Look at the bottom of the page. In this situation, we can see the queen and the jack, and we've got the king. In this situation, if they play the queen, we don't play the king on the first one. We wait and play it on the second one. So if they play the queen, we play low. We do not play the king. If the queen happens to win, that says that declarer must have the ace. That means that next, when they play the jack, now you cover it with the king, forcing them to play their ace. So cover an honor with an honor is nearly always true. The only time it is not true is if you can see a string of cards, good cards on the board. And if you cover the honor with the honor, it sets those up. That's when we usually don't do it. We cover an honor with an honor when we are hoping we can't see the other cards, and we're hoping that our partner has some and we're promoting them in their hand, or we have some high cards in our hand and we hope to promote those. Okay, so that's third hand high, second hand low. Again, in both of these chapters, the exercises at the end of the chapter are very good for letting you make the decision about what you should play. When I'm giving you examples and showing you things and you're not having to make the decision, you think you can see it. But when you have to make your actual decision about what cards to play and let yourself do that instead of just looking at the answers, but actually make the decision, then you'll find out either, great, I did it right, or you'll find out why that was not the right thing to do in that circumstance. The exercises are very, very valuable for you and will really take you a lot further in your game. That's it for second hand low, third hand high. On our class next Friday, we are going to be covering defensive signals. Very important part of defense. It's the next most important part. After we get through with signals next week, the last class, we're just putting some odds and ends together. But these first three classes are the nuts and bolts of defense. All right, that's it for today, guys. I will see you in class on Friday. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Allie, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank